For my presentation, I am looking at artificial intelligence in video game development. My main question is whether AI is mainly a helpful tool or a threat to creativity and jobs. My thesis is that AI can make development faster and more accessible, especially for small teams, but it should support human developers instead of replacing the creativity, judgment, and accountability that makes games meaningful. I chose this topic because video games are not just entertainment anymore. They involve software, art, writing, acting, business, online communities, and player data. So when AI enters game development, it affects more than just code. It affects the people who make the games and the players who experience them. First, it helps to understand that this is not just some future idea. AI is already being used in game development. According to the 2025 GDC State of the Game Industry report, 52% of surveyed developers said they worked at companies that had implemented generative AI, and 36% said they personally use generative AI tools. Google Cloud reported even higher adoption in its own 2025 survey, where a majority of respondents said AI was already part of their workflows. The exact numbers vary because the surveys use different groups and methods, but the trend is clear. AI is no longer just a theory. It is already showing up in coding, testing, localization, art support, and production planning. The best way to think about AI in game development is not as a magic button that creates a finished game. It's more like an assistant inside the pipeline. Google Cloud reported common uses such as playtesting and balancing, localization and translation, code generation, and support for creative tasks like level design, animation, and dialogue. Those areas make sense because games require tons of repetitive work. A developer may need to test whether a boss fight is too easy, translate menus into different languages, or write small pieces of code that connect to larger systems. AI can speed those tasks up, but the important part is that a human still has to decide what fits the game, what is fun, and what quality is acceptable. Major upside is speed. Modern games are expensive and slow to build, and even small projects have a lot of moving parts. AI can help developers experiment more quickly before they commit months of work to an idea. For example, a team could test several rough level layouts, generate placeholder dialogue, or use AI to help find bugs sooner. Unity's 2025 gaming report said that 96% of surveyed studios were using AI tools in select workflows, and 79% of respondents felt positive about AI tools in game development. That does not mean that every use is good, but it shows why studios are interested. If used carefully, AI can lower barriers for indie developers and help teams spend more time on the parts that actually need human imagination. The concern is that AI can move from being a tool to being a replacement strategy. This matters in games because game development is not one job. It includes artists, writers, programmers, voice actors, motion capture performers, translators, QA testers, and producers. The 2025 SAG-AFTRA video game agreement included AI protections such as consent and disclosure requirements for digital replicate use. That shows that this is not just online drama. It has become a labor issue. There are also originality and ownership problems. If a studio uses AI-generated assets, it needs to know whether those assets were built from licensed material and whether the final product can legally be protected. Players also care because they may feel misled if a game hides major AI-generated content. The solution is not as simple as saying AI should be banned or fully accepted. The better answer is rules and responsibility. Steam's own documentation separates AI content that is made during development and shipped to players from content generated while the game is running. For live generated content, Steam asks developers to describe guardrails to prevent illegal content. The US Copyright Office has also made clear that copyright still depends on human creative contribution, and NIST describes trustworthy AI through ideas like transparency, privacy, safety, fairness, and accountability. For game developers, this means AI use should be documented, reviewed, and disclosed when it affects what the player sees or hears. This is the center of my argument. AI is not automatically good or automatically bad. It becomes a tool when humans stay in charge. That means developers use it to test ideas, reduce repetitive work, and support production. But humans still decide what the game is trying to say, how it should feel, and what belongs in the final build. It becomes a threat when companies treat AI as a replacement for people or as an excuse to cut corners. A game is not just a pile of assets. It's pacing, tone, emotion, mechanics, art direction, and player trust. Those things need human judgment. So my line is simple. AI should speed up the boring parts, but people should control the vision. So as we have seen, AI in video game development should be treated as a powerful assistant, not as the creative director. It can help with prototypes, testing, localization, code support, and even creative exploration. That could make game development more accessible for smaller teams and help developers spend more energy on the parts that matter most. But it also creates real concerns about jobs, consent, copyright, originality, and player trust. The strongest approach is not to reject every AI tool, but to use them carefully. Developers should disclose player-facing AI, protect performers and artists, check the rights behind assets, and keep humans responsible for the final game. A game made with AI can still be creative, but only when human creators lead the process. This slide lists the research sources used for the presentation. I used industry reports, official company or platform documentation, a government copyright source, NIST guidance, and SAG-AFTRA's announcements about the 2025 video game agreement. And this slide lists the visual sources for the photos used in the deck.